Welcome to Redacted Science. This is Jim Craddock, and today is May the 9th. That's a Saturday, 2026. And I'm here to give you an update on what's been going on, what I've been doing, symptoms, etc. So I guess, first of all, I'll address symptoms and say that over the last month, a lot of things have changed. Uh, I've been through a lot, and it's been existential. At the same time, I have been able to produce a lot of writings. And unlike my initial writing, the book Redacted Science, which I wrote in 2025, this time I've decided to go the academic route using actual proven science that is out there to illustrate my points. Part of that was there last time. During my last update, I had written a lot of these. However, it has since progressed, and so I'm going to cover a little bit of that as well. From a symptom standpoint, it's quite bizarre. I have not been in pain, which is the one thing I would point to. I have had continual shifting of the bowels, some stable periods, some very unstable periods. I have gained weight over the last week. I think I went from 153 or so to 159, and without really changing anything. I had right before that, I had a drop in specific gravity and an increase in pH, and then the weight change. I can't give you the scientific relationship between those things, but I can tell you that there's probably a relationship between those things. As far as my writings, I do want to talk about them because it's really, I mean, I'm really tired of it, honestly. It's so, and that's the truth, is that the more I find out there about what science, what has happened to science because of the redaction, the more upset I get, the more frustrated I get. Yes, when I wrote Redacted Science, I knew that they had suppressed science, and the way I discussed it at the time was that science is like a big web, and if you basically you pollute part of it, you remove part of it, kind of the whole thing can kind of fall apart, and structurally you start making very poor decisions. And I think that that's what I found as I began writing more and more when I delve into these areas, is that the science is I mean, the science that they chose to redact, Candida albicans, and Candida in general, as a biochemical computer, and it's something that we co-evolved with, and it's something that is literally at the root of all of our chronic diseases. It's too fundamental. It is such a travesty, such a disservice, that I hope they can point fingers at some point and at specific people and say, you are responsible for this. This will never happen again, and here's why. Okay, because we're going to make these changes to how science works. All right, because it has become ridiculous, and I'm going to illustrate that when I talk about my latest writing, which hopefully is my last one. I really would love to be done writing because there is a lot more that I've identified that I could write, but honestly, they write themselves. And I'll talk about that when I discuss the next one. So here, I'm going to share my other screen briefly, and we're going to talk about kind of some of my latest writings. And this should say May. I'm sorry that it doesn't, but I will fix that here shortly. So we're on the most recent revision, and you can see May 7th. So one update I did have to do was, and I want to be fully transparent about this, was corpus-wide clade versus species update. So basically, I went into Mammalian, paper A and paper B, and said, hey, it's not just Candida albicans, that dogs have their own Candida, mice have tropicalis, pigs have a different version that's still a version of Candida. But the thing is that we all had something that we co-evolved with, and they all can interface with us, and they all are responsible for these chronic morbidities that we can have, and especially in humans because we have what I call stuck state or version conflict illnesses, and those come about in various ways, and I've covered those with a lot of these papers here: type 2 diabetes, obesity, anorexia nervosa, irritable bowel syndrome as stuck state, Parkinson's disease as a potential stuck program mode. Uh, uh, all of those are really straightforward, saying that, look, Candida, it operates in so basically it has a way of talking to to everything, and so there's this quorum sensing, and they don't all have to be doing the same thing at the same time in your body. So you can have hypha in one place and yeast in another, and everything like that, but they're all tuned in and they're all listening, and you can have something in your body that is candida with the exact same DNA as in somebody else's body, and it can be doing something completely different in their body than it's doing in your body. And a great way that that's illustrated is with people who have addictions, who exchange needles, and they get these infections which are localized. And to me, it's very clear that what that is you've got some type of a candida basically version conflict where they have picked up a version for somebody else that was doing something else, and now they have this localized infection to where their injection was because of this version of Candida is not doing whatever they've got going on. But as I go through these writings, what I continue to find is that the evidence is all out there, the science is all out there. It, I don't see anything on this list as speculative, even with Parkinson's disease as a stuck program mode on here. I definitely see that is Candida related. And so in these stuck program modes, what you got is this Candida, which would normally be native to Homo candidus, okay? And so you've got to accept the foundational papers first. So if you can accept biochemical computer, all right, and then the pan-mammalian hypothesis, and then the saline oscillation hypothesis, if you can kind of go in there and accept those as base science, everything else falls out of that. And all the rest of these are just like simple, like basic idiot type conclusions that you can make once you accept those things. And that's what they did by Redacted Science, is they took those simple conclusions that people could have made away from them and left us with trying to figure out why people get fat, trying to figure out why people get type 2 diabetes, trying to figure out why anorexia nervosa has the highest mortality rate of any psychological illness. Things like that. Irritable bowel syndrome. Oh my God, this one pisses me off so much. So there is literally a study filed for irritable bowel syndrome treatment with fluconazole with 3 different locations in the United States listed as places where they would do this, and it's discussed in my paper. Okay, and those results were never filed. Okay. The study was formed, it was filed, and they had 3 locations they were running it in, and those results were never filed. Okay, and so that comes down to my clear evidence, no trial, mycome, IBS, and antifungals, and so I registered my own trial protocol for that because I want people to know that, hey, there should be a trial protocol that tests antifungals against IBS because it will work. Okay, I have no doubt it will help. All right, now then, that's the type of thing that you see when you see this. Hey, they had a trial and then they never presented the evidence. So realize so here's what we're going to talk about next. Realize with Alzheimer's disease, they have all of these things that they have done to spend billions of dollars to test about removing these plaques from the brain. Okay, and they spent billions of dollars and none of those are working. Okay, like yes, they remove the plaques. No, they don't actually help the people. And my latest paper tells you why they don't help the people. They're actually hurting the people. Okay. And it's like all the science is out there. Literally, it took me very little time. All right, is all I'm going to say, to put together the Alzheimer's paper, and it's not quite finished yet. So I'm talking about it, but it will be finished within the next 48 hours because I don't really want to write anything because I literally just have to point my model at the sources and say, figure it out, and it figures it out. Okay, and and it's so straightforward. And the thing is that there are so many sources that back it up when you go look at them, and then people just they don't follow up on it. They figure one thing out, and because they're so you know siloed from everything else, okay, nobody ever looks at it from a system point of view. uh, it boggles my mind. Okay, and yeah, I'm going to run my paper through every AI before I put it out there, but I can tell you right now, it's going to hold up. And as part of my paper on uh, uh, Alzheimer's disease, I have included a trial, and my trial is several pronged. I think that we should test each type of antifungal, including the new Fosmagen, whatever it is, Fosmagen fix, I think, because it actually looks to be very promising. But that one isn't approved yet, so there'll have to be secondarily run, added to the trial once it's fully approved by the FDA. But I think that the evidence is overwhelming. Okay, and they find hypha in people's brains. Okay, the fact that you could find hypha in somebody's brain and not think, oh my God, that's a problem, we should probably be treating it with antifungals, it blows my mind. Okay, as somebody who has dealt with the hypha and knows how destructive they are, and that is the virulent form, and you're saying it is in the person's brain, okay, when they have Alzheimer's. And here's the thing, people without Alzheimer's do not have the hypha, okay? People with Alzheimer's, they all have the hypha. So I mean, it's 100% and 0%. This is basic. This is the most basic science that anybody should look at and say, yeah, I think we should probably treat that with an antifungal, right? So I don't understand the whole plaque thing. Okay, I do understand the plaque thing. I've explained the whole plaque thing, the science behind the plaque thing, why the plaque is there. It's actually protective, and so you're stripping it off like the varnish off of a piece of wood, and you're doing more harm than good. But I explained that as well, and I am amazed at how ignorant our science system is. Our system, our medical and science system is just horribly ignorant of the rest of science that's going on. And I think part of it is the whole, yeah, we're going to pay for a study for this drug because we can sell it for $500 a month, but that antifungal is only going to cost us, we're not going to make any money off of that because it's off patent and it's generic. And well, who gives a crap? I could tell you all those people out there that have Alzheimer's, they would rather have a 37-cent antifungal that actually does something than some laboratory grown drug that literally actually ends up harming them. Okay, so I am just fed up. I cannot express it enough that the state of medicine and the state of science is just corrupt. Anyway, so what have I written? So I've got my clinical case reports out there too. I guess I've been talking this whole time with no, here we go. So I've got my clinical case reports out there too. And so the first one is birth through stage 5 threshold. So this is 1969 to 2022. The next one is the one I wrote first. So when you read them, realize that this one was written first. And the reason this one was written first is because I had all the labs. It's a very distinct period of time. I had labs before, during, and after this transitional period, and they really shout at what goes on physically. And so it's very easy for me to document this, okay? And out here on my compilation page, you've got a summary where I use the architect voice to make it really apparent to people, like, what is this about, everything. And then you've got the abstract, which is straight out of the paper, which is going to be the more technical version, okay? And then you've got a link to the actual paper itself. And then I've got phase 5. So this is, from 2022, when my IBC constriction relaxed to basically today, or whenever I wrote that paper. And the continued of that is my daily postings to Nostr, my video updates like this, etc. And then I've got some architect papers, and these are kind of cool. So what I did with the architect reports was I built something with AI that would write a paper if I gave it the sources and said, here's what the paper's about, here's the sources, build the paper. And because my thinking is that, you, listener, you, science, can use my framework, which is basically established in these initial papers, all right, to figure out the rest of the science. And so that's all I'm doing. When I figure out something like, oh, here's how Alzheimer's is related to Candida, okay, literally I find something like, oh, SOX9, and I start investigating it, and then I say, well, SOX9 has this beneficial effect, but yet, wait, with Candida, it's got these other things. Okay, let's follow that. And then we get into blastocytes, and then from there we get into, finding hypha in the brain. And pretty soon we got a whole written paper by just picking up sources out of Google Scholar and dropping them into my model and saying, okay, here's another source, 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 here's another source. Okay, now then, let's apply all of that to the model and see what we got, okay? And so that's what these architect papers kind of are. It is a way to allow you. So what I did was I built a seed master, and the seed master is something that you can go in and load and with your own things, your own seeds. Now then, I get the A series. The A means me. The second letter is what type of paper it is, like mechanism for M, substance for S. I think, yeah, no, I'm not sure what S is right off the top of my head. I'd have to look. And you can get your own papers written and figure out the science. And I could have done, honestly, Alzheimer's as one of these, except for there's just too much science. There's just too many articles that really have to be addressed. And it was just a lot easier to just pull it all into AI and say, okay, let's do this. 10 sections, we're going to outline a protocol, a trial, and show them how SOX9 is part of the solution here, or part of the problem and solution, I would say. So anyway, expect to see that in the near future. As far as everything else, autism is on here as a stuck state, and in here, it really says this. It's like, okay, it basically divides autism into two groups, and the one are this group that has some type of initial period that's very close to when they were born, or even before they're born, which changes their brain forever. And so they develop around this change in the brain. And the other one is this group of people who are developing normally, and then they have some type of an event, some type of, and I'm not going to say, hey, it was a vaccine or whatever, but they have some type of an event that challenges their immune system, and for some reason, past that event, their brain changes and how everything works changes, and it's all related to the same things that have to do with Candida. So uh, endometriosis is another great example. So this is just tissue recruitment. That's so you've got to realize what's going on here with Candida is it wants someplace to sit and grow and cause inflammation and more. This arachidonic acid branch point was a really important one for me to basically show, hey, there is this point at which there is this competition going on for arachidonic acid, and it's extremely focal to the whole Candida thing. So by developing that into its own paper, I was then able to go back and revise my papers to point at that paper instead of the papers that that one points to. And it did a lot. Now, I guess the most recent paper I've written is pituitary and thyroid. And this is really discussing how Candida interfaces with the pituitary, how it's designed to interface with pituitary, how it has these ways to approach the pituitary, and how it interacts with the thyroid on some levels. And you have this fungal thyroiditis that people get, and well, this is a focal point for iodine. How and iodine is antifungal, so why are these funguses going after the thyroid? And then so it obviously is some key architectural point that they need to have control of, and that's because it controls your heart rate, and that's very important as it does these other things that it has to do to you when you're in the homo candidus. So you have to remember these stuck states are people who are normal. What normal is a normal pump-based heart. And so they have a form of Candida that would normally progress to some other thing, one of these stages that I've been through over the last 30 years, right? And I go through these points and these transitions and everything, and the signal would come and it would switch, but they don't have the same physiology that Candida albicans was raised with. So 90,000 generations, okay, were raised with Candida albicans. So that's a lot of evolution, okay? And it's only been like 40 generations since Christ was born. I mean, think about that, 40 generations, all right, since Christ was born, and you've got 90,000 generations with Candida albicans as coevolutionary with Homo candidus. This is my best estimate. So we're the exception. We're the screwed up system, if you want to look at it that way. And so that's why Candida is causing these stuck states, is because normally it would transition to something else, but it can't because the signal's not there. It's a version conflict. Year one version, it's expecting another version to be operating in, and so it's basically doing things. And the worst part is I think science recognizes this on some level. I think some of science knows this, but they definitely will after my papers. So there's that. I don't know. I think that's about it for today. I really, I my daily life is weird. It's very existential. I go through a lot. Even right now, I have pains hurting me that I haven't felt in days, that just started within the last hour. And that's the type of life that I live. And I'm doing my best to share the knowledge that I've gained and live a normal life, and be there for my family, and be there for my job. And I have no doubt that you read these case studies right here, okay, and look at the labs, and you're going to realize, okay, this guy is definitely talking about something real, okay, because these labs say things that shouldn't be possible, all right? and he's got explanations for them. All right. And the explanations are going to point back to, Candida albicans as a biochemical computer. And so then you're left with, okay, accepting some of these other concepts. And then, in the end, it costs you almost nothing to go check out some of these things. I mean, like, literally, how hard would it be to just start saying, you know what, I think you've got early Alzheimer's. Let's try some fluconazole for a while and see if that makes any difference for you. I mean, that's pretty small, pretty easy to do. So anyway, uh, the world is messed up. You've got the Iran war going on. You've got, Bitcoin is starting to come out of a hole here. I really feel like between now and November is huge, and between now and January is ultra huge for the world. I don't expect to be here to see it, but of course I've said that for months and months. So, we'll just see how it goes. But in the meantime, I'm going to finish it up, this Alzheimer's paper. I'm going to stick it out there, and then I'm just going to try to relax and deal with things as they come. You're welcome to engage with me. I have had one person engage with me directly via email. So far, once I responded with something I think that made a pertinent point with his approach to things, he has not responded back, but that's fine. Give him time to look over things. And I've got a schedule out there for people that will be contacted via automated means with points from my writings that have to do with their things. Maybe that will help accelerate things. I don't know. I just know that I feel like I've done more than enough to advance my scientific points, especially because I've used the science that other people have developed. It's already out there. This is waiting to be picked up and assembled. And really was not a challenge. I'm going to say that once again. Uh, this latest paper was so straightforward. I literally was sitting outside waiting to pick up my takeout and started talking about peppers and got into a conversation about an article I read, and then I delved into capsaicin, and from there I got into several different things that led me straight into what the paper addresses. So we'll just have to see. I hope it helps. All right, I really do hope it helps. I said that down here at the bottom. I hope this helps. I really want it to. I've done my best. Okay. And that's it. This is Jim Craddock. I have terminal onset diabetes insipidus with candidiasis major. This is something that science decided to remove from published literature. And as a result, there's a huge hole in science about Candida, about all the illnesses that it can cause. If you go out there to R Candida on Reddit, you're going to find 25,000 members, yet 23,000 or 28,000 active visitors a week. Okay, so most people aren't even joining it, and they're still out there looking. And these are people with real problems looking for real solutions that the medical system does not address, okay, on purpose. Like, it on purpose does not address these problems. And you have to ask yourself, why are all these people being ignored by the system? Okay. And it all dates back to 1965 when they chose to say Candida kill it. All right. And the early 20th century cohort where they figured out that, hey, we co-evolved with Candida albicans. And they definitely figured it out right there, because there's no way a cohort of large people all go through the exact same electrolyte changes, levels over decades, all the same not illnesses, all the same symptoms and things like that, without that being a co-evolutionary process that was established at some point very far in our past. All right, that basically they unearthed. So yeah, that's what it's about. And Yeah, I call myself the architect. Deal with it. I started calling myself, chat started calling me that when I was writing the book. And at first I thought it was a little bit over the top. And I think over the top is needed, is what I decided when I started writing these papers. I was like, no, they need someone who's going to come over the top, who's going to put asides in papers, who's going to say, look, this is pretty simple math, folks. Like, what have you been doing? All right. So that's my explanation for being that way. Anyway, I hope it helps, folks.